Lady Ngozi screams, slamming her hands on the table. You mean to tell me my stepdaughter, that wretched girl, is now sitting in the palace as the prince's wife? And he is not crippled? Imagine being forced into a marriage with a prince everyone says is crippled, only to discover he is not. Your own stepmother betrays you, hoping to destroy your life, but instead, she pushes you into power. This is the tale of Zara, a woman who turned her pain into strength, her betrayal into wisdom, and her fate into destiny. They say fate is a river, it flows where it must, carrying those who dare to follow and drowning those who fight against it. Stay tuned for a story that will leave you speechless. Long ago, in the city of Lagosburg, there lived a young woman named Zara. She was beauty and wisdom wrapped in human form. But behind her smile was a tale of pain, a tale of a cruel stepmother, a father too weak to protect her, and a marriage that was never meant to be. But as the old ones say, the lizard that nods today may one day roar like a lion. Zara's story was far from ordinary. Zara's father, Chief Oladipo, was once a strong man. But love, oh, love, is like a fever. It burns and weakens even the strongest of men. When his first wife passed away, he remarried Lady Ngozi, a woman with eyes sharper than a knife and a heart colder than harmattan winds. Lady Ngozi had only one goal, to make sure her own daughter, Anita, had everything Zara could never have. Lady Ngozi would always angrily shout at Zara, where is my tea? Must I always remind you that you are not a queen in this house? You should be grateful you still have a roof over your head. Zara swallowed her pride. She was used to her stepmother's wicked tongue. But what she never expected was the betrayal that awaited her. One day, Lady Ngozi entered Zara's room, her lips stretching into a smile that never reached her eyes. Zara, my dear. I have found you a husband. What? Zara asked in shock. Not just any man, but Prince Jidenna, heir to the Lagosburg throne. Oh, such a lucky girl you are. Lady Ngozi explained. Lucky? Zara's heart dropped. She had heard the rumors. Prince Jidenna was crippled, his legs twisted since childhood. No woman wanted him. No woman wanted to be chained to a man who could not walk. Her father sat in silence, staring at the ground. His hands trembled, but he said nothing. He had already agreed to the marriage. And just like that, Zara's fate was sealed. On the day of the wedding, Zara's hands were cold. The palace was filled with hundreds of guests, all waiting to see the unlucky bride of a crippled prince. Her eyes darted around, searching for the groom. But he never appeared. Not during the vows. Not during the grand feast. The people laughed in hushed voices. Some pitied her. Others found it amusing. But when the night came, when she was led to the prince's chambers, her entire world turned upside down. The man who stood before her was not crippled. Zara whispers, You can walk. Why does that surprise you? Answered Prince Jidenna. Prince Jidenna was no cripple. He stood tall, his movements smooth, his eyes filled with secrets. Zara's heart pounded. But the word thinks you cannot walk, she said slowly. And that is exactly how I want them to think, said Prince Jidenna calmly. The prince had fooled the world. He had let the city believe he was weak, so his enemies would lower their guard. But Zara was no fool. She saw the cunning in his eyes, the way he watched her, calculating. Why had he chosen her? And more importantly, what game was he playing? She said to herself. Your stepmother thought she was getting rid of you. But instead, she gave me the most valuable bride in this kingdom. Prince Jidenna said to Zara. What do you mean? She asked. You are not like the others. You are not blind to the games of power. I need a wife who will not betray me for riches. I need someone who understands what it means to fight. Prince Jidenna continues. And just like that, everything changed. Zara was no longer a victim. She was a player in the game of kings. Days turned into weeks, and news spread in the kingdom that Prince Jidenna was not crippled. And Lady Ngozi, Zara's stepmother, receives the shocking news. A servant from the palace who had been planted by Lady Ngozi delivers a message at Lady Ngozi's mansion. My lady, Prince Jidenna. He is not crippled. What? Lady Ngozi gasped. The woman who thought she had ruined Zara's life was now the fool. The girl she cast away had become the most powerful woman in the kingdom. Lady Ngozi screams, slamming her hands on the table. You mean to tell me my stepdaughter, that wretched girl, is now sitting in the palace as the prince's wife? And he is not crippled? Mother, how is this possible? They said he was a cripple. No one wanted him. Asked her daughter Anita, confused and jealous. Lady Ngozi paced back and forth, her sharp nails tapping against the wooden table. Her perfect plan had shattered before her eyes. She had plotted to get rid of Zara, to send her into a miserable life of pity, but now, Zara was sitting on a throne next to the most powerful man in the kingdom. Lady Ngozi's lips curled into a sinister smirk. If she thinks she has won, she is mistaken. Evil does not rest. Greed does not sleep. Lady Ngozi was not done. Not yet. Meanwhile, in the palace, Zara was learning quickly. Life as a prince's wife was not just golden plates and silk dresses. It was a game of power, deception, and survival. One evening, as she sat in the royal garden, Prince Jidenna approached her. You are not just my wife, Zara. You are my partner. You must learn how this world works. Oh, I know how this world works. My stepmother taught me well, said Zara. Then you know that power is not given. It is taken, explained Prince Jidenna. Zara stared into his eyes. She knew he was right. She had lived her whole life at the mercy of her stepmother, watching from the shadows as greedy people took what was never meant for them. She would not be that girl anymore. That night, Zara made a decision. She would become more than a wife. She would become a queen. While Zara was learning the rules of the palace, enemies were plotting. There were many in Lagosburg who wanted Prince Jidenna dead. In a secret council meeting, some elders plotted against Prince Jidenna. That boy has ruled for too long. And now he has married a woman as clever as he is. This is dangerous. We must act fast. Before it is too late, said a corrupt general. Plots were being woven in the shadows, plans that would shake the kingdom. And soon, Zara and Jidenna would face the greatest betrayal of their lives. Meanwhile, at Lady Ngozi's mansion, late at night, she plans her final move. Lady Ngozi was not a woman to accept defeat. If Zara thought she was safe in the palace, she was wrong. Lady Ngozi knew a secret, one that would destroy everything. She summoned a mysterious figure into her chambers, an assassin, a man dressed in all black, his face hidden beneath a hood. I have a job for you, said Lady Ngozi. Name the price, asked the assassin. The prince must die, Lady Ngozi whispers. The air in the room turned poisonous. Lady Ngozi's final move was in motion. And Zara's happiness was about to be ripped away. That night, Zara woke with a strange feeling in her chest. Something was wrong. She turned in bed, reaching for Prince Jidenna, but he was gone. Her heart pounded. She stood up, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders, and stepped into the dark halls. Something was moving in the shadows. And then she saw them. 3 masked men, armed, moving toward the prince's chambers. Zara whispers, her eyes widening in terror. No. No, 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 she did not think. She did not hesitate. She ran. The assassins moved swiftly, their daggers gleaming under the dim lantern light. But they had underestimated Zara. She burst into the room just in time, her voice ringing like a war drum. Jidenna! Wake up! Zara screamed. The prince shot up, his instincts kicking in. In the blink of an eye, the battle began. Zara grabbed the metal staff from the corner, swinging it at the nearest assassin. She was no warrior, but she was a fighter. Prince Jidenna, fully awake, moved with the precision of a lion. He was not crippled. He had never been crippled. And that night, he fought like a king. The battle was fierce. But Jidenna and Zara stood their ground. And by dawn, the assassins lay dead. Morning came. And with it, the truth. One of the assassins had survived. And when he was dragged before Prince Jidenna, when his mask was ripped off, Zara gasped. Because she knew him. He was one of Lady Ngozi's men. Zara whispers, in shock, my stepmother. She did this. Then she has signed her own death warrant. Prince Jidenna said in a dark and furious voice. Lady Ngozi had never been a fool. She had played the game of power for years. But tonight, she had lost. Her carefully planned assassination had failed. Her trusted assassin had been captured. And worst of all, Zara knew. Her own stepdaughter, the girl she had tried to break, was now coming for her. A bead of sweat trickled down Lady Ngozi's forehead. She had one last move left. She called for her daughter, Anita, who entered, her face twisted with confusion and fear. Mama, what are we going to do? Her voice trembling. We do what we must, Anita, said Lady Ngozi, gritting her teeth. She grabbed Anita's hands tightly, her nails digging into her skin. Listen to me carefully. We must act before they do. We must make the first strike. She knew Zara was coming for her. But Lady Ngozi had survived worse. And if there was one thing she was good at, it was turning the tables. Back at the palace, Zara had made her choice. For years, she had suffered under Lady Ngozi's rule. She had endured humiliation, betrayal, and cruelty. And now, she had the power to end it all. Prince Jidenna turned to her, his eyes scanning her face carefully. What do you wish to do, my queen? Zara's heart pounded. She had never been given a choice before. But now, she was no longer a girl in chains. I want her to pay. Zara's voice steady, powerful. The prince gave a slow nod. Then we do it at dawn. For the first time in her life, Zara was no longer running from her past. She was walking toward it. And this time, she would be the one in control. That morning soldiers marched through the city, spreading the news: Lady Ngozi is summoned to the palace. The entire city buzzed with anticipation. Lady Ngozi was a powerful woman, well-connected and feared. But even she could not ignore a royal summons. As the sun set on the horizon, she prepared herself. She adorned herself in the finest clothes, her head high, her confidence unshaken. But deep down, she knew this was either her greatest battle or her final defeat. At the palace, guards lined the walls. Prince Jidenna sits on the throne. Zara stands beside him, her face unreadable. The doors swung open. Lady Ngozi stepped inside. She was still proud, still elegant, her posture giving away nothing. But her eyes betrayed her fear. She met Zara's gaze, the girl she had raised, tormented, and tried to destroy. And for the first time, she saw the woman Zara had become. "You summoned me, my daughter?" asked Lady Ngozi calmly. Zara did not blink. "Do not call me that," she replied. The air grew thick. For years, Lady Ngozi had controlled the game. She had dictated Zara's fate. But not today. Prince Jidenna speaks out, "We know what you did." Lady Ngozi tilted her head, her smirk never wavering. "Do you?" Prince Jidenna nodded toward the guards. A man was dragged in, bloodied, beaten, barely breathing. "The assassin." "I do not know this man," Lady Ngozi said coldly. "Lies," shouted Zara. Zara stepped forward, her voice stronger than it had ever been. "All my life, you have tried to break me. But look at me now." Lady Ngozi chipped in. "You are strong, because of me." The words struck Zara like a slap. She knew it was true. But that did not mean she would forgive. Prince Jidenna interjected, "For treason against the crown." "Lady Ngozi, you are sentenced to exile." Lady Ngozi's eyes widened. "You would dare?" she hisses. "I would," said Zara softly, but deadly. And so Lady Ngozi and Anita were escorted out of the kingdom. The once powerful woman was now nothing. As the gates closed behind her, the world she had built crumbled into dust. She turned one last time, her eyes burning with hatred. "This is not over," she whispers to herself. That evening, Zara stands alone on the palace rooftop, staring at the city below. Prince Jidenna joins her. "You did it." "Yes, it is over," said Zara quietly. "No. It is just beginning," Prince Jidenna added. The old Zara was gone. The girl who once obeyed, who suffered in silence, she was no more. In her place stood the queen. And the game of power had only just begun. Months had passed since Lady Ngozi's exile. But evil never truly fades away. It hides, it watches, and when the time is right, it strikes. Her daughter, Anita, sat beside her, shivering in the night air. She whispers, "Mother, we have lost. Let's move on." "Lost? You think I will let that girl, Zara, win?" "No. I will take back everything that is mine," answered Lady Ngozi. Lady Ngozi's eyes gleamed with one final, desperate plan. And so, she made a decision. At the break of dawn, she set out for the capital. Meanwhile, at the palace, a great celebration was underway. Zara and Jidenna had secured the throne. They had earned the trust of the people. And now, they ruled with wisdom, fairness, and strength. But just as Zara was about to raise her cup in celebration, a loud commotion broke out at the gates. A guard rushed in, panting. "Your Highness! A woman, she demands to see you." Zara's heart stopped. She knew who it was. She turned to Jidenna. Their eyes met. No words were needed. Lady Ngozi had returned. The air was thick with tension. Lady Ngozi stood before Zara, her once proud figure reduced to a mere shadow of her former self. But her eyes still burned with fury. "So, you have truly become a queen," she mocked Zara. "What do you want?" asked Zara. Lady Ngozi smiles. "To remind you that without me, you will still be nothing." For years, Zara had lived in fear of this woman. But now, she saw the truth. Lady Ngozi was no longer a threat. She was just a bitter woman grasping at power that no longer belonged to her. Zara stepped forward, her voice firm. "You have spent your whole life chasing power. And now, you have nothing." But Lady Ngozi chips in, gritting teeth, "I made you strong." "No. I made myself strong," Zara interrupted softly, but with power. Lady Ngozi staggered back, her mask of confidence finally cracking. For the first time, she realized. She had lost. Completely. Prince Jidenna turned to the guards. "Take her away. She will live the rest of her days far from this kingdom. Let her be forgotten." Lady Ngozi let out a bitter laugh. But she did not fight. She had played the game. And she had lost. As the guards dragged her away, Zara felt no hatred. Only peace. For the first time in her life, she was truly free. The next morning, Prince Jidenna and Zara, now Queen Zara, stand together on the palace rooftop, watching the sun rise over Lagosburg. Prince Jidenna smiles softly. "So, my queen, what happens now?" Zara took a deep breath, feeling the warm sun on her skin. Now we rule." Zara had been forced into a marriage she never wanted. She had been betrayed, used, and tested. But in the end, she had emerged victorious. Together, they ruled with wisdom, strength, and a touch of cunning, ensuring that no enemy could ever pull them apart. And so, the city of Lagosburg entered a new era, one where wisdom ruled over greed, love over hate, and strength over fear. This story teaches us that strength is not given. It is earned. The ones who try to break you might just make you stronger. Greed, jealousy, and deception will always lead to downfall. True power is not about control, it is about wisdom, courage, and justice. What a journey! From betrayal to power, from suffering to victory, Zara's story is one that teaches us all a valuable lesson. If you love this story, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing African folktales and drama-filled storytelling. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Who was your favorite character? What did you learn from the story? And most importantly, what story should we tell next? Until next time, keep watching, keep learning, and keep growing. Thank you for being part of our storytelling journey.